Hi, this is Jerry Alt. I'm here again today, adding to my channel with some updated content. It's been a little while, but as I think all of you can appreciate, it's been a little bit of a different year between COVID, the economy, and the normal demands of trying to run a business. Anyway, today I thought I'd offer you a quick tip on how to make a few changes that you could run into on images that you shoot. So here I've got Photoshop open. This is running version 2020. I've upgraded to 2021, but some of my actions and keyboard changes didn't carry over, so I'm still using the 2020. So this is a headshot that I took for a beauty queen, and I haven't done any work on it yet. So I'm going to do a couple of quick things. We're not going to worry about her complexion. That wasn't the issue that I saw that I thought you could use some help on. So first thing we're going to do, you see down here in the bottom right-hand corner, there is a little bit of white. That's from the reflector. I had used a Westcott Eyelighter 2 to reflect some light back in on her chin for the headshot. So what I've done is I've taken my patch tool and just drawn a circle around it. Here, I'll get out of that for a moment. Just take that, circle around, just make sure you get past the margin. And then if you hit the delete key from here, you're given a couple of different choices on how you want to fill that patched area. So I've got it on content aware. You could use 100% black, for instance, and then it's just going to put a black spot, but that doesn't help you with anything. So what I use, hit delete again, is the content aware feature. What that does is takes information from the surrounding parts of the image, and then if you click OK, you'll see that it made it all gray. Now, depending on what you're editing and what's visible on your screen, you could have a problem where it doesn't look like it's doing the right thing. Keep in mind that if you've done a crop on this this is my original image that I brought in from Lightroom, but if you had a wider image and you had cropped in and were working on a smaller cropped area, maybe to fit your canvas size, even though the image was bigger, the content aware can still see those pixels that don't show on your screen. So if you end up with a problem where it's not clean like this, then that could be the problem, and there's plenty of ways you can get rid of the extra pixels. You could just sample and paint over that corner. It wasn't a big deal, and it's really not the primary thing I wanted to show you. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. First thing that I saw when I was shooting this woman, I'm just going to move this up, is you see in this very ornate necklace that there are, see if I can draw a circle around it there, some missing jewels. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4 that I see here that are missing. So what we're going to do, I'm going to deselect that, is allow you to fix that. The easiest way to do this, especially here, we've got other sample parts of the image that we can use. I'm just going to go into the one, and there's different ways you could select this. I could use the pen tool to be more precise, but for purposes of this, I'm just going to use that same patch tool and just select as carefully as I can the jewel itself. You don't have to be too perfect because part of the bezel is obviously still there. So now that I've selected that, and this is a little kind of messy, so I'm going to deselect and select it again just to try to get you a little bit. When I'm using this recording software, I get a highlight over my cursor, so it makes it a little bit more difficult. There, that's a little bit better. So once I've selected that, I've only got the one layer going right now. I'm going to hit Command C or Control C if you're on a PC, and then Control V or Command V for me on my Mac. And what you'll see is that that's created a separate layer with the pasted in item, okay? So make sure you're on that layer where the new item is. Press Command T or Control T. That will select that object, and then you can move it around. So I'm going to move it right over here to where the other spot should be, and then you if you come out to the outside, here I'm going to come in a little bit more so you can see what I'm doing. If you come to the outside edges, you can either use the boxes and make this bigger and smaller, which in some cases you might have to do, but these jewels should be approximately the same size. What I'm interested in is correcting the rotation. So that's what I'm going to do right now, and I'm just going to drag it into place, correct that rotation a little bit more. And again, if you make a better selection, it'll look better. I wasn't worried so much about that. And I think that's close enough. I'm going to double click on it, and now you see that we've filled in that jewel, the one that was missing. So what you can do from here is, if you have another one that's approximately the same size, and I see that these down on the bottom are approximately the same size, you can just duplicate that layer and duplicate. You can either come over and duplicate the layer over here, or just click on the layer and hit Command J. That will make a duplicate copy. And again, I'll turn these off for a moment. So there we've got that one. If I click on it, it's right on top of the other one. But what I want to do is make sure I've got that new one found, hit Command T to select it again, and now I'm going to drag that down to where I need it. And you see here, being able to rotate this is very important, because this is a round necklace and it's going to fit differently in different spots. That looks pretty good. I'm going to double click on that. So now we've got the second one fixed. By the way, I'm moving the picture around by holding the space bar down when I grab a hold of the screen. That lets me move the entire image. So now we've got two of those. I still think this one's about the same size. I'm going to hit Command J one more time, Command T to find that, copy. I'm going to bring this over, rotate it into position, and do the same thing here. Now this one looks like it's a tiny bit big, so you can always adjust it down just a little bit. Try to find the right spot, double click on it. Good enough. It's close enough for government work. There's another one in here, but you get the idea of what I'm trying to do. Now, what I would caution you when you do this is go over and select all your layers when you're done and merge them together. The reason for that is you're not going to go back and fix this again. Once you're happy with it, you're just going to leave it alone. So this just became part of your underlying image. Again, I hadn't done any skin work, frequency separation, color adjustments, and the like. So now I've basically got a fixed version of my original file. Now that we're going to go do something else, the first thing I typically do when I'm working on an image in Photoshop is make a copy of my background anyway. That gives me a version, a layer, this layer 1, where I can make mistakes, and if I really go out of bounds and I do something stupid, I can go back without ruining my original image. It's true if you go back and revert, go up to your menu, the file menu, you do have F12 on my Mac, reverts to the original image, but you know, sometimes if you're happy with changes to that point, rather than revert all the way back and start over, here I got the jewels fixed, or you know, most of the jewels fixed. I'm just going to save that now as my new background image. If I hit revert from here, what it's going to do is take me back to the copy I brought in from, virtual copy that I brought in from Lightroom, and then I got to go and do the jewels again. So I was trying to avoid that. So here's another thing that happened on this, and you see this sometimes with people. This is a handmade dress. It's got lots of detail in it, but one thing that's going to happen is you may have some underwear showing. You may have the underlying garment. This isn't like threads, you know, down here some loose threads. We could fix those later. But I've got this piece of garment. Now, if I was going to try to use my patch tool again and say, oh, I'll just select that spot and fill it in, the problem is that the computer and Photoshop's internal little brain is going to try to make decisions here, and you're not going to like those decisions. it's going to end up making a sloppy mess out of this. So rather than do that, we're not going to select that. Just guarantee. If you also tried to use a clone stamp and you said, oh, I'll just fix it with a clone stamp. I happen to have a different brush selected, but for this purpose. And you said, well, I'll just fill it in. You grab some of the surrounding material and you go in and start drawing. What's going to happen is by the time you're done with it, it's going to look like you patched it. It's going to look ugly no matter what you do. So I'm going to go back to before that happened. I'm going to deselect this. There is a way to fix something like this if it's small enough. I've had women with a red dress and a little bit of the bra strap shows under their arm, things like that. Rather than go in and do a lot of things to fix it, let's just make it look like it was part of the outfit and nobody's going to notice, especially at the size you're going to be using a headshot. Well, how do we do that? Let's create a new layer, just a new blank layer. And then I'm going to change the blend mode of that. You see here on the bottom right, the blend mode. There's different blend modes. If you don't know what they do, play with them. I'm going down to color. And now that I'm in color, I'm not going to affect the material. I'm not going to affect what it looks like. I'm just going to change the color. So I'm going to select a paintbrush. I want a nice soft brush. So this has got a little bit of hardness in it. You know what? There is some edge here, so rather than do a selection, let me make it a little bit harder. I don't want it super hard because that, especially when you're changing color, it can give you some weird effects. That's about big enough, 35 pixels for me. And then I want the flow to be up at 100%. I want the opacity and flow at 100%. What I'm going to do now is select a color that looks like it works in this dress. I'm going to hold the Option key down. That's going to give me an eyedropper so I can pick that color. And now I'm just going to paint over that. And certainly, you know, I wouldn't do it like this. I would select it in. I want to make sure I'm not bleeding over anything else. I'll make the cursor a little bit smaller because I want to get in there. Again, by the time somebody sees this headshot, I mean, if it was used on LinkedIn, for instance, and I think that's what she was using it for, her business Facebook page, profile picture, or whatever, it's going to be so small. Half of the audience is going to see it on their phones anyway. You're not going to see it. But okay, now I'm going to back out just a little bit. And you see what's happened is, yeah, it's still there, but it kind of looks like maybe it was part of the support of the dress. So that's a quick way of doing that. Remember, color mode. If you do that, if I made this normal, you see it's going to paint yellow paint because I used a paintbrush. So I don't want that. You could play with the other blend modes. They're going to make it too light, too dark. It's going to look goofy. But if you just go down to color, what that does is changes the color family, if you will, because it's not a precise match if the underlying material we're painting over is a little bit different than the material that you selected the color from. It's going to be a slightly different shade, but it's going to be pretty close. So that's why I was at 100%, because I wanted it saturated. I wanted it to look as much as possible like this dress. I could have done a different thing here. I could have selected from, say, over here in the red area and gone into paint on that. Let me make that a little bit bigger. I could have painted over it this way, and then you see what's happening is I'm picking up the color that I sampled from, which was a dark pink, but because this was originally white material, it's in the same color family, but the luminance of what I'm painting over is going to be matched to what I'm painting on, if that makes sense. But still, let me finish that up a little bit, make it look not quite so ugly, make sure I've covered all of that. I wouldn't have to be so careful with the painting if I'd selected the area first. Now I pull back out. Again, it looks like it belongs to the outfit. So that's a quick and easy way to do that. There are other things wrong with this image. You know, I've got threads over here that where this was assembled hastily or by hand or whatever. I've got a few things in her complexion that I need to fix. She's got little marks on either side of her mouth. I'd like to clean up a couple of years here. Little eye makeup smear. Those are things that I would normally do first, but I wanted to give you a couple of quick tips on fixing repeating items like the jewels that were missing. It happens with earrings all the time. Clone stamp doesn't work very well because they're not going to be on the same plane, so you're constantly adjusting your brush. This was kind of quick and easy, and then fixing that little bit of bra that showed up that the client was all upset about, but I said, don't worry, we'll fix it so it doesn't show. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you for following along. I'm going to start doing regular updates to my YouTube channel. I'm going to try to get at least one new video a week up on this channel, possibly more. May get busier. I hope I get busier in my studio as we approach the holidays, but I've certainly got some time, and I just need to take out that 30 minutes a week and give you some content. If you like the tips, please click like. I'd love if you subscribe to the channel, because then you'll get updates on new tutorials as I pass them along. So all right, have a wonderful day, everybody, and